to load it, and for some reason I didn't. I was sidetracked. I bet that's going to fall down. Never mind. I was sidetracked. Hello, Sue. Hello, Jill and John. And Jeet, it's been lovely with you too. Jolly good. Jolly good. Right, so let me show you. I've done two options. I've done the two different sizes. So as you'll see, there's the postcode size and there's the Mugrug size. One was a prototype. So this is what we're going to do. And it's the wrong way around, I think. But this is what it will look like in the postcode format. And this is what it's going to look like in the Mugrug format. So hello, Christine. Oh dear. So you're the only one that's well, Jill. Hope you get better soon, and the dogs. So there's going to be, there's two ways of finishing the corners. We've got the mitre and we have just a squared corner. Can you see where it's just folded over as opposed to mitred? And this is a different way of mitring the corner as well, because I know not everybody has the amazing mitre and ruler, and I haven't got any more. So I thought I won't show it because those people that have one will know how to use them. If they don't, on YouTube, you'll find demonstrations of using the amazing mitre tool. So as I say, whoops, that way up. This is what we're going to do, nice and simple, but I thought I would try for each month to do something vaguely associated with that particular month. So I've just done leaves, and I thought they were just quite straightforward, simplistic, but it would suit anywhere. So what do we need? Oh, lovely. Sue, I need to respond to your email, don't I? I will. Hello, Helen. Hello, Beverly. Hello, Patricia. Cold and wet in Ireland. Oh, okay. So what are we going to need? So when I put the PDF in the files, there will be two sizes, and basically the postcode size is 6x4 and the Mugrug size is 8x5. So, with the postcode one, the backing fabric, I usually have an inch of excess fabric for the backing fabric, but on the smaller one, I've put slightly less to give it a narrower border. I must admit, on this one, it's got the narrow border as well, but I thought we would go back to the standard 1 inch excess all the way around for the backing fabric. So we're not doing a separate binding. We are using the backing fabric that comes round to the front, and we create our binding there. So, as I say, for the Mugrug size, I have got my backing fabric. There's my backing fabric. There is my piece of wadding, which is 8 inches by 5 inches. I have then got, I knew I would forget one piece. Bear with. I have got 2 little strips that are 1 1/4 inches wide, and 2 that are 1 1/4 by 3 1/2, and 1 1/4, 2 of those by 8. That is for that. So I just need to cut. Let me just have a look here. I need to cut a piece, which this is for the background piece here, 6 1/2 by, whoops, I'm just measuring this here, 6 1/2 by 3 1/2. Be prepared, Trisha, that's what I should say. 6 1/2 by 3 1/2, 6 1/2 by 3 1/2. It won't take me a minute to do this because I have it sitting here. Okay, so there is my background, 6 1/2 by 3 1/2. So what we're going to do, first of all, I thought what I'll show you how to do is the new or the new technique, the technique that I don't do all the time, but I think it's well worth knowing about for doing your applique shapes. So we are going down to the machine. Okay. So there we are. Let's pop these pieces aside for the moment. So when here are my pieces that I drew. These are the shapes of the leaves. And as I say, you will get that on the PDF. So what we're going to do with those shapes, there's 2 sizes. I have drawn them. This is going to be my leaf fabric. I have drawn around the templates onto the back, the reverse of my leaf fabric. So what we're going to need is, and I'm sure you all have some, there is some on the website, but I'm sure you've got a little bit of interfacing. So this one is the papery one, the H250, which is, it's about $3.50 a meter, I think. So H250, just papery, but it is fusible on one side. If you've got non-fusible interfacing, that is absolutely fine. But if you have the fusible like I'm going to use, the best thing to do with my shapes, I haven't cut my shapes out yet, but you could cut that beforehand, but I decided that I'll just draw it, and then I'm going to lay my fabric right sides down onto that fusible side. You see it's a bit glossy. Okay. And what we can do now, I wonder if they'll be too big. In the instructions, what I actually did was cut them out first of all, and then I stitched around that inside edge. And actually, I'm going to have to do that now. I should have, if I was going to stitch first and then cut, I needed to make sure my leaves were a little bit further apart. Oh, I know what I'll do instead. I'll just stitch inside because there's no exact size for this to be. So I'm going to stitch, let's just make sure I have a nice short stitch length. So I'm going to stitch at 1.8 and I'm going to stitch just inside this drawn line. So that when I come to cut these shapes out, it will be okay. So I can see where my drawn line is, hopefully, and I am just going to stitch around here. So nice and slow, because they're all curves, I would say nice and slowly. I'm even going to round these upper curves so that we get a nice shape. I'm just lifting my presser foot up one step at a time. That's it, till we get to there. And then I'm just trying to see where my drawn line is because it's not perfect. I can't really see it very well at all. So when we come, I'm just pulling around there. Just so I'm pulling my fabric away so that I can get a nice straight line. So that's it, we're nearly here, back at the start, and then cut that thread. So as you can see, there is my interfacing, and I've stitched roughly inside the drawn line. Or, as I say, if you cut your shape out first and then pop it onto some interfacing, you can just stitch right inside, sort of, not necessarily a whole 1/4 of an inch. You could just do 1/8 of an inch inside there. So I am just doing exactly the same, and just so that I can keep stitching, that's it. So this little bit here where the curve is a lot sharper, I'm just doing 1 stitch at a time. I'll come into that piece there and then back out here, and this is the top. Oh no, this is the bottom of the leaf actually. But anywhere, it's a little bit like a heart shaped, and anywhere like that, you just want to. So when it's a longer curve like here, you can go a little bit faster. There we go. And then we'll come out and meet our stitching where we started, which hopefully is there. Right. So now that I've done my stitching, I am going to cut Oh, I can cut just between there really quite well. So I'm just going to cut all around. Oh, I can't sit there. So I'm going to cut about 1/8 of an inch from the edge to get my shape here. So you don't need, if you leave 1/4 of an inch, like we do for a lot of things, you will then need to clip into all of these curves, or use, just looking for my stitching there. There we go. Oh, or use pinking shears. So you've got a nice zigzagged edge. But I'm just doing a very, I think you can see, no, you can't see very well there, a very small seam allowance, as I say, around about 1/8 of an inch, even a little bit less, so that I don't have to clip into all of those curves. So we'll just go around here. Now, if you want to put more leaf shapes onto your mug rug or postcard, you can. The size of the leaves are slightly smaller, so there will be 4 patterns. There we are. So that you've got a set of 2 for your postcards. Okay, so there are my shapes. On the reverse is our interfacing. So what we're going to do is, and I like to use a seam ripper for this, well, what I do first is try and pull that apart, because we're just going to make a slit very carefully, not through the fabric at the back. I'm making a slit in the interfacing, and then I'm going to carefully turn it through. And the reason for having the fusible side of the interfacing down is because now the fusible side is on the outside, which means that when we press, well, we're not going to press this, but when we set it onto our mug rug, which is at a bit of a further stage than it is at the minute, it will fuse to the mug rug itself. So all I'm doing is putting my tool in here, like that, and pushing those edges out. Now I will want to just pull the fabric out near that point. And the other thing which I should have done, which I will do now, let's just pull that out so there's a little bit more of a point. I should have clipped into where that went down to a point. Well, we'll leave that one. I'll make sure I do the other one. And the shape of the leaf is a little bit strange because I obviously didn't go around there very well when I was stitching. Never mind. Oh, I see that's coming out a little bit more now. Oh, that's better. There we are. That's not too bad. So now we have, with our, just pull that little bit out. Just pull the point. So I'm pulling out the fabric and not the interfacing. So now we've got quite a nice shape. So here, before we do any further, I'm just clipping into that tiny little bit there so that we get a nicer point when we come to that. And so again, either with scissors or start it off with a seam ripper and then put your scissors just into there. Go a little, and it doesn't, I wouldn't go right to the very outside. I wouldn't do many more cuts because that big cut is enough for you to be able to turn that through. Try not to rip because the interfacing can rip, but just nice and gently and turn it through. Okay. So having got most of it turned through, just, there we go. We can then take a nice rounded object or pokey tool that's nice and rounded and just pop the tool into the edges just to push those out. And say when you're when you're doing your own, you'll get a much smoother curve around there. It's all very well for using a thread that blends in well, but when you're trying to see it and you can't in this light, it's not so good. So let's see, there we are. So there we have another one. Now my leaves are going to go like that when it's sat on there. So for the time being, I'm just going to set them aside. So just with your nails, just to go around the outside of it, you see it opens out really nicely, but don't press it at the minute because it is going to stick onto wherever you press it. So I'm going to set those over there whilst we now start with our the Mugrug itself. So I have got my wadding and I have got my background. So this is the center background just here. You can do it in whatever colors you like, but we're working with this piece and I'm just going to add borders to each side. So the first thing you need to do is centralize your centerpiece. So just make sure that's right in the center. It's good. You can either measure or I think that needs to come over just a little bit there. Okay. Because that looks a little bit further at the top than at the bottom. That's it. And then just gauge. So that should be about 3/4 of an inch, which it is. And that's a 3/4. So that's about right. And I'm using Thermolam wadding here, and it does stick to it really quite well. So the first thing that I'm going to do, and this is with my border pieces here, is I am going to take my short pieces and I'm going to place it right sides together. And you know it's on the right side because it's the only side that fits, this side and this side. So again, because I'm going to turn my stitch length up to 2.4 or your standard default setting so that, very sensitive, and I'm going to pop my short pieces on at both short ends. So right sides together, line that up and 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. So we will just stitch along there, and what should happen is that your fabric folds over and meets the edge. Okay, so that's the edge of my wadding. I can just finger press across there, and then we'll do the same. Ooh, that's if we stitch it first. I thought I'd stitch that. So we'll just switch to the other end. And again, 1/4 of an inch seam allowance all the way across. And trim. And let's just trim that. And then fold that back. And again, just give that a finger press. And we have top and bottom covering our wadding. So then we'll take our long pieces, and this will go end to end, line up with the edge of that center, and again we will just stitch the whole way down. Now you notice I haven't put a walking foot on because for this short distance it really doesn't matter. Okay, let's trim that. So then we'll fold that back, and again just do a little nail press there, and that's covered that side. And then we'll get the second piece. This is so relaxing and therapeutic, just putting borders on and doing a stitch and flip method like you're quilting as you go. So we can stitch down there, and hopefully that, yes, it has stitched. Flip that back, and whoops, there we go. That's it. And give that a nail press, and that holds really quite well. So we have our base now. So before I go any further, what I am going to do is this. I'm just going to quilt. When I say quilt, I'm going to stitch through the layers around the edge here. So I'm going to do, I usually do about 1/8 of an inch. So I will increase my stitch length. Whoops, where are we there? That's it. So, no, I don't want to go there. No, I'm going to stitch on that side, aren't I? So I'm going to stitch on this green border, and I'm going to put my stitch length up to 3.4, and we will just do just a straight stitch all the way down. There we are. And we will pivot. It just finishes it off. I also think it would be quite nice to do it in a contrast colour, just to make it stand out. But I've just got my standard silver grey thread, and it's giving the effect that I like once it's finished. Okay, so around we go again. Okay, and then just stitch up to where we started. Whoops. And cut. Okay. So there we have that all ready for our next step. Now the next step, we're going to place our leaves just where you would like them to go. So I'm having it coming over the border, but what we do need to think is you want it to come in at least, we'll have about, 1/2 inch of border backing fabric coming over here. So don't have it too close to the edge, but do have it going over one of these borders. So I'll have it like that. And then similarly here, so that, there we are. And what I did just temporarily to hold it, I'm just going to put my iron on. I'm not going to iron this down totally, because what I do want to do is mark where I want to have my stems. So if I lift that up, and I want the stem to come from underneath. So I'm drawing underneath here, like this. I'm just doing 2 lines, and I want it to come under this one here. So we can just draw this all the way down. So I'm just drawing 2 lines, which are not as good as the other ones were. And then, whoops, let's just lift that up there, because I want there to be a stem comes from under here. So let's go. So I've just drawn one coming from there and one coming from there. That's it. Now, if like I have used a friction pen, what we don't want to do is actually iron over those markings, because they'll fade away. So having got my, whoops, here we are. Right, I've got my iron, and I'm just going to gently dab here, just to temporarily, or just to hold a little bit of it. Can you see that stuck a little bit? So I'm just sticking that just there, and then they're just held in place. So if I were to go like that, they're not going to fall off. And then I can stitch down here. Now, what I am going to have to do is just change my thread, because I would like my stems to be in green. So if I just thread this around and down here, oops, behind there, I just thread it up for a little bit of green stitching, and then we can just lift this up and that, so they're not in the way. And you could free motion, but I know not all of you like to do free motion. So what I'm just doing is I'm just stitching with a straight stitch, And then I'm just going to turn at the bottom there, and I'm going to come back up here, and then I'm going to come out along this stitch here, or this stem rather, and then just for ease you can cut your thread if you want to. There we are. And I might just reverse on there because, whoops, I didn't mean to reverse as fast as that. But I'm going to come back up the other side that I've drawn and cut my thread. And then I have got, just trim that away, I have got my stems stitched on there quite easily. So while I've got the iron on there, I am going to just iron those away so that it looks a lot better without those drawn lines. And with that double bit of stitching wasn't the best. So actually what I'm going to do, I'm going to stitch a little bit more. Can you see how I've got a dark area there? So I'm going to stitch over this one more time, just so that it looks as though that was how it was supposed to be, you know. So like we would do a double line of stitching when we were free motioning, I'm just going to do it as if I free motioned this as well, so it looks authentic. So it looks, that is exactly what it was supposed to look like. And let's just go up this one as well. Okay, and over there, and back down here, and cut. Much better. So different. So now that I've got a much darker line, that is fine. Now the only other thing I'm going to do is stitch all the way around the edges, because now that we've got them, I suppose I could iron that down a little bit more so that will hold. I'll switch the iron off, but never mind. So I'm just pressing that just so that it's got a nice hold. Oh, that is there we go. So that's held down nicely, and now I can stitch around the edge. So you could stitch a blanket stitch, a zigzag stitch, but what I am going to do is turn it down to a shorter stitch so that we can get round the edge here nice and easily. So again, I most definitely am lifting my presser foot and I'm stitching very close to the edge. Oh no, we're not stitching at all. I take it my thread has just come out of my bobbin, so let's just pop that in. There we go, that's better. Let's just start again. Right, so I'm starting at that bottom corner. There we go. So as I say, one step at a time, and I've got my hand on the presser foot so that I can just keep lifting it. Not so bad when we have, so nice and slowly up to the point there. One more stitch, one across, and then back down the other side. Okay. It's funny how these colours are very similar. There we are, round we go, round to this bottom point. And then back down there again. Okay. So the only other thing I'm going to do, you can do this, it would be so much easier with free motion, is I'm going to do a centre vein. So let's go up there, and then all I'm going to do is reverse, hopefully back down the line I came up. So, and then I'm going to go out once. I'm actually going to come back because I'm using thread which is so similar to the fabric, and to actually, I just cannot see, there we are, I cannot see the stitching, there we are. So I've just done a couple of veins up the centre of that leaf. Let's just trim that piece off just to make it more authentic, and then again I'm going to stitch around the edge here. Now it's really not so bad when I'm onto the cream background, but it's when it comes onto this lovely green coordinating fabric, and this is rather nice, up one of the long curved pieces. There we are. And we've got another nice long curved piece here. And around. So again, I'm going to move. You can see I've got my hand here and I'm just lifting the presser foot. I'm not doing it with my knee lift. And around. There we go. Right, so I'm in the centre now. So this time I can just carry on up the centre and back down again. And then I shall come up and I'll just come out there for one more stem. There we go. And I've gone back to the centre stem and we'll just come back out there. Swivel it round and back. Okay, so we have our leaves with some stems stitched on there. As I say, it is much easier. Oh, I didn't get that very good there, but never mind. So we've got all the basics done now. So the next thing we're going to do is to pop our backing fabric, or rather the Mugrug that we've done, onto our backing fabric. Now you need the right side here. This is a white on white or white on cream. You want the right side facing down. This side is the wrong side, and you want to pop this in the center. Now I'm going to use a little bit of 505 on the back here. Just the tiniest of bits so that it holds it in place. So I need this to be central. I need it to be an inch from all edges. So let's just have a look there. Oh, that's a bit of spray gone on there. Didn't want that. Let me just wipe that off. Oh, I think that's what I've had on there before. I'll have to get that cleaned off later. Okay, so I can see now. Yep, that looks good to me. But by all means measure. So I've got this time, I've got an inch at each side. So this back piece is 10 by 7. There we go. There we are. Now I'm going to switch my iron back on because the next little bit is different to how I usually do this. If you have a mitre tool, you can use that for cutting your corners and then folding. But what I'm going to do, let's put that like there, is I'm going to fold, and the first step is exactly the same. Fold the raw edge of the backing fabric into the center, or rather towards the wadding. So the edge of the wadding is where this is going to meet. So I've done that one, and then we can go round to the next side and fold that in and press that too. So right to the edge, and then fold that one in. So all 4 edges we are folding in. There we are. So it just meets. the edge of the wadding. You don't want it overlapping at this point. So fold that in. I've turned the steam off on my iron because I didn't need it for when I'm using a pressing mat. Okay, so having pressed that, now what we need to do is open it out, and what you can see, or what you can't see, let's just go down, whoops, a little bit further here. So we've got a little square where these lines intersect. There's a little square. What we're going to do is cut straight across there. Okay, so I'm going to trim off. You'll be able to see much better. I'm going to trim straight across there so that my cut is where, can you see when I fold it back? It goes exactly where those two creases meet. So I'm going to do exactly the same here and cut across there. And then I'll do the same here. Open it out and cut across. Oh, that didn't go in exactly there. There we go. And then this one, it would be better done with a rotary cutter, to be honest, because that will hold that down flat. And we've got those all cut off. Okay, so can you see? And this is actually what if you're using your amazing miter tool, would do exactly the same. So from here, what we're going to do is, but the first thing we're going to do with this, which we don't do with the amazing miter, is to fold that over so it just touches that corner point there. Fold that over. Okay. And I think it's good to give that a little crease across there and then fold it back to how it was. Okay. So I've opened it out, fold it back to how it was, and then fold it over onto the top there. Let me just find me. Right. So then I'm going to find a clip to just hold that. And then we're going to do exactly the same on this side. Fold that over back to how it was along here. And then we're going to fold this in so it meets just there. Now, the only thing which your amazing miter tool is going to be even better with is here. You just need to manipulate that. There we are. So that folds in nicely, and it is open, I'm afraid. So what I've done with my mug rug, when we've stitched around here, I've done a second row of stitching down the middle so that we go across this miter here as well. So let's have a look closer to, turn that off, closer to the machine, and you'll be able to see exactly what I mean. Okay, let's just bring you up just a tiny bit. That's it, so that we can see what's going on now. So I tend to, you can either set these out, do these first of all. So we can do this next one. So I'm going to fold that up to that corner piece. And then, as I say, if you just finger press that down so that that meets, let's say, just to that point. Okay. Give that a little nail press there. Let's undo that one so we can do this better. Nail press along there. And then that one folds in where it came from before, and then fold that in. So let's just put that little clip there. And then similarly here, fold that one in so the rest of it all lines up again. And then we will fold this one over to meet. And when we're stitching, I will actually pull that together so that that miter looks better than it does when you originally do it. So let's get myself another clip there and hold that. So we can start, what we can do is start halfway up one of these sides. So I do need to change my thread. Let's change my thread there. And we'll go back to our silver grey so that it blends in nicely with the fabric. And it will hide a multitude of a multitude of sins if need be. If you feel brave and want to try with a contrast colour, because it would look nice in that green, I think, you can. But as I say, I'm just going to do my standard. Let's see, let's put that there. Okay, so I'm going to start down a side so that we can come into that corner. Okay, so I'll take that off for the moment and keep this nice and flat when we come down to the corner. It is quite handy to have your seam ripper to hand and bring that down so you can pop that into your fabric so that it holds that mitre together just there. So let's just hold that together or pull that together. And I tend to hold this other side so that it's close to it. Whoops. And carry on stitching until we get to that mitre point. And that's gone right in between so that when we bring it round, whoops, let's just push that together. And we can carry on stitching along the next edge. So as you saw, we had got our clips on there, and so we'll carry on into this corner and hold those together, and then I'll put my seam ripper, the point, into the other side. Now I've seen it's already stitched into that point there, which is good. So then when we come out, I can just pull that over and carry on stitching the easy bit, which is up the long straight edge here. Okay, what I better do is do my folding here first of all. So we're going to fold this over just there, and let's just see if we can fold that in. I should have left a little bit more space than that. Fold that back, and that's going to come over like that. Let's put a little clip on there just to keep that firm, and then we can do the proper way there on this other side. Fold that in and then bring that up to meet the other side. So I didn't get that perfectly well, but we just pull that together, and what I can do now on there is put the clip on, and I might over at this side, while that is open, we can push that one over. So we're just folding that corner up first of all, giving that a nail press across there, allowing it to fold back to how it was, and then into the corner. And I will put another clip there. It is well worth doing that. Fold that side in and then bring this together so when it meets there, and then we can deal with this part here to give ourselves a nice, we've got another one there, clip on there to hold it. Okay, so we're working our way down this side, and I can take that off now. Keep those 2 points together there. Right, and that's gone in. And just push that under, make sure that's nice and straight and even. And let's take that one off for the moment. And then we'll take that one off as well. Just line those two into the corner. And I've got my seam ripper holding it. Okay, and then around we go to come back, and we're going to meet the stitching where we started. So all the way down, and if we can get to stitch over, totally over those first stitches, perfect. So we've got that little bit done now. Now, as you can see, these come open just a little bit, so you can either hand stitch them together if you want to, or what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew exactly down the middle. Well, I say exactly, by eye. So I'm coming down there, and then I'm just going to put my seam ripper in to hold these, to bring these, this point together. And then when it goes into the middle there, so it's going in between that line, but then I'm going to carry on, and I think that's going to pull that together. So that little pokey bit there, we're just going to poke that in, bring that together. I've got my seam ripper, or you won't be able to see because of my fingers, I don't think. Okay, so I'm going to push that in so that it's nice and close, and then it's holding those that point together, so we can stitch down the edge to the next one. I mean, it doesn't actually look awful, but I prefer them to come together a little bit more. There we are. So we're nearly, there we are, we're in. So once we've gone into the piece that came apart, we can push the other one in together. So similarly here, let's just, it's just the fold of the fabric that is just pulling it apart just a little bit. But if we can pull that together there, and then it goes into that little hole, but then I'm going to push that towards it. Oops, can't get a hold of that now. That's it. And then that holds that together. And again, we'll try and join our stitching. There we are, exactly where we started. Okay, so we'll trim that off, trim that off, trim that off. So we've just got a double row of quilting stitches, but I think it just adds to it. Right, okay, it's done a little bit, but I think the best way to get that perfect point is, one, your amazing mitre tool, or two, to actually hand sew those together. But the effect is there. So there is your very first Mugrug, or postcard if you wanted to do the smaller design. And the idea, when we've got 12, will be to join them together. So they are going to be all the same size. And we could have 3 across and 4 down to give you a whole year of Mugrugs or postcards. So let's have a look and see if we are back again now. We are. Let's see. Oh, we did that pretty well, actually. Oh, let's see. So let's have a look. Oh, okay. So we've got quite a few other people here now. Leaves. Oh yes, are they hearts or leaves? It's they're my drawings. So if you want them as hearts for next month, February, this is what you are going to, whoops, I'm looking at the wrong one. So it does look like an off-shaped heart, doesn't it? But I'm putting them the other way up so that they are leaves. Leaves on a stem. So nice and easy. But as I say, the technique for this was using your interfacing, to give you that nice edge. If you don't like raw edge, applique. So raw edge is where you have the edges are purely the fabric, and it can fray if you don't stitch over them. But this way you have got perfect edges and the fabric is all turned under. Yeah. So that's what I thought, Jack, that by joining them all together, so, you know, we can join them by hand, which I think would look quite nice. And they're all going to be very, I would say, straightforward, nothing really, really intricate. But what I'm going to try and do is bring a little new technique in each time. So it could be, oh, thank you, Shirley and Marilyn. Yeah, so there will be a little technique each time, even if, I mean, we could do satin stitch applique. We will use different, I'll say fusible webs, because there's lots of different makes of fusible web. We will use that at some point as well. But there'll be lots of different designs as we go and a little technique to go along with it. But if you don't want to join it after we finish 12 months worth of these, you can use them as individual mug rugs because they will always come in handy. Or, as I say, with the postcode size, this one here, the size is that. Whoops. There we are. So that's your size for your postcode postcard 6x4, as opposed to your mug rug 8x5. And I don't know whether you can see. Oh no, let's compare this one to this one. So this one I did the narrower border. This one I did the standard extra inch on each side. Be good if they were the right way up, wouldn't it? So there we are. I can see it says leaves, leaves, leaves. If you wanted to, yes, you could embroider some flowers as well. What I've been thinking about all day is I really wanted, thank you, Sue, and thank you, Jeeta. I wanted to put J for January on there, or January itself. And I just thought that not everybody will have the facility to be able to embroider. But you could do it by hand. You could do some hand embroidery with just the letter J. It was just to mark which one was for each month. And planning to be a months of the year, as a quilt, as a wall hanging, or like I say, all for just your mug rugs for the month. It could be mug rug of the month, couldn't it? Yes. Okay. I can hear the oven pinging, which means it's time for dinner. So I am going to love you and leave you there. Thursday I shall be having another little sale, and we will have the last of the Christmas fabrics, all at really good prices, along with the felt. I have today cut all the felt. So I have got a huge pile, which I shall be rolling. Oh, you could do that. You could do that, Nikki. I shall be doing this felt into rolls. The fabric, the felt is going to be 12 inches wide by, I think it's about 36. So they're all going to be in nice little felt rolls so that it will all be nice and smooth when it arrives with you. And there are about, what must there be? 6, 18, 20 plus colours. So I look forward to that. And then on Friday, I've got some 3D patchwork. So be something you may have done before, but a nice and easy way in lots of different sizes. You could do that, Jack. No, as I say, from my point of view, not everybody has an embroidery machine, but to embroider it would be fantastic. Some of you with your sewing machines would have the alphabet on there. And you could do that. You could actually stitch on there January. What I would do if you are going to do that, test it out on another bit of fabric before you do it on here. But that would look really lovely. And if you wanted to sign it on the back or do a little quilt label, would be fantastic also. Okay, so enjoy the rest of your evening, and tomorrow stay warm because I think it's getting cooler, and just go and sit near your fabric. It'll make you feel better, even if you don't do any sewing. But yes, enjoy the rest of your evening and tomorrow, and I'll see you back on Thursday. Bye for now.